What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Andy, aka Caps Coverage, and as this offseason rolls along, today I'll be going through the Capitals' top 10 prospects in my opinion, and just kind of give you an update as to where they stand. Now, a couple of stipulations for this. For forwards and defensemen, I needed to see guys who were age 22 or younger and had under 30 games of NHL experience. So you're not going to see someone like Ethan Frank, Pierre Dubé, or the most recent Calder Cup playoffs MVP, Hendrix Lapierre. All those guys are either too old or have played too many games at the NHL level. And then for goalies, since goalies take longer to develop, anyone who is 25 or younger and has under 10 games of NHL experience. Let's get into it. So if you're going to do a Capitals prospect video, the place that you have to start is with Ryan Leonard. The 8th overall pick in the 2023 draft, Leonard is far and away Washington's top prospect. Last season, he played his first year in the NCAA with Boston College, played in 41 games for the Eagles, had 31 goals and 29 assists for 60 points. Unfortunately, his Boston College Eagles came up just short, losing to Denver in the national championship game, and I think that loss played a very big role in his decision to go back to Boston College for one more season, especially now that Cutter Gauthier and Will Smith, Gauthier's with Anaheim, Smith's going to the Sharks. If it wasn't already, Boston College is absolutely going to be Ryan Leonard's team next season, and I think that leadership and pressure will be very good for him in his development, and at the end of Boston College's season, I would be stunned if the Capitals did not sign him to his ELC and give him a shot to finish out the regular season, and maybe even play in a few playoff games should they make it that far. After you get past Leonard, there's a little bit of a talent gap, and I'd say prospects number 2 through 4 for me are kind of interchangeable in where you rank them. But personally, at number 2, I have Ivan Miroshnichenko, the 20th overall pick in the 2022 draft. Last season was his first season in North America after some time in Russia, and although he played in 21 games for the Caps, only had 6 points, had his first career goal against Pittsburgh, which is awesome. But he seemed a little overmatched at times, played in one playoff game, same thing there. Didn't quite seem like he was ready, but he spent the majority of the season in Hershey, played in 47 regular season games where he got 25 points, and then he just exploded in the playoffs for the Bears. Had 12 goals in 20 games, had 12 points in 20 games, 7 goals, and he just felt so comfortable. He looked so comfortable there. That was his team. Going on that playoff run was huge. He had the iconic quote that Hershey put on the t-shirt, something like, "We win cup," whatever it was. That was hilarious. But Miro, I think, will probably go back down to the Bears at least to start next season, but I think that he is probably Washington's number 2 prospect. Great goal scorer, great skater, lots of potential. At number 3, there might be a little bit of debate about this one, but I personally have Trik Paras, Washington's most recent first-round pick, taking him 17th overall in the 2024 draft. I know that I criticized the Parasak pick at the time, and I still believe that if Cole Yzerman was on the board at 17, they should have taken Cole Yzerman or even someone like Trevor Connolly. But that's not to say that Parasak is a bad player or bad prospect. This is still a guy who, in 68 WHL games last season, had 105 points. That is just crazy production. I have some concerns about his skating. I think that he could use some work there. I think the Capitals are going to send him back to the WHL for another season so they can perfect the little kinks in his game, similar to what they did with Andrew Crystal this year. I think that Parasak's got a lot of potential. He's just going to be a long-term project, but, I mean, that's fine. When you got guys like Ryan Leonard, Miroshnichenko, and then already in the NHL like Lapierre and McMichael, you've got your core set for a little bit. If Parasak needs some time to develop, that's not a huge deal for the organization. I think that he'll be a very solid top 6 forward in the NHL one day. Like I said before, prospects 2 through 4 are pretty interchangeable for me. So at number 4, I've got Andrew Crystal, the 40th overall pick in the 2023 draft. Crystal, huge draft steal at the time. He was viewed that way, and last season he just really cemented that. In 62 games going back to the WHL with Kelowna, he had 111 points, and then in the playoffs had 15 points in 11 games. Then the Capitals actually sent him up to Hershey to play with the Bears for the playoffs. Never cracked a game for the playoffs, but he practiced with the team and got some experience staying in the AHL. And I think next season he'll probably be full-time in Hershey. I would be very surprised if the Capitals wanted to go back to juniors again. I think he's kind of developed everything that he can there. But yeah, I'd expect a lot from Crystal and Hershey. I think that they'll throw him into a top 6 role. And then if he performs really well, I really wouldn't be surprised if down the line there are some injuries. They call him up to the Capitals for a few games to just see what he's got at the NHL level already. Then at number 5 on the list, we've got our first defenseman, right-handed shot, Vinnie Iorio, the 21-year-old, picked 55th overall in the 2021 draft. Iorio, he's played the last 2 seasons in Hershey, had solid production there, most recently played in 60 games for the Bears, had 14 points in those 60 games, and then only cracked the playoff roster 8 times due to injuries. Played 6 regular season games for the Capitals this year and 1 postseason game. Iorio, not a huge offensive defenseman, but he is a big 6'4", 200-pound guy. Great defensive defenseman, good puck mover at the point. I think that he will be a blue line staple for the Capitals for a while. And I would not be surprised if he gets a very long look in training camp this summer. A guy like Ethan Bear has similar production and makes a lot more money than Iorio, given that the Capitals are already in a cap crunch and that Oshie might be coming back. If they need to save some money, I would not be surprised if the team sends Ethan Bear to Hershey and leaves Iorio on the NHL roster to save some cap space and give him those minutes in the NHL that he could really benefit from, even just practicing with Washington versus Hershey every week. I think that would be huge for his development. All right, at number 6, we've got our biggest wild card of the Capitals prospect pool, Zack Funk. 20-year-old winger, 6 foot tall, 210 pounds, just played with Trik Paras on Prince George last season in the WHL. Hadn't had a huge season before last season, but then in last season, out of nowhere, he explodes for 123 points in 68 games. This is a guy who had just been undrafted and then had this huge year. Capitals go out and sign him to a 3-year deal. And then afterwards, in the WHL playoffs, he continued his production. He had 15 games, scored 18 points. Zack Funk, I think, will go to Hershey next season, and that is really where we're going to figure out what kind of player he is. If he can, A, crack the Bears lineup and then B, produce at the same level, this is going to be an unheard of undrafted steal for the Capitals. But it will really depend on how he adjusts to playing in that pro style. It's a big adjustment going from the WHL to the AHL. So we'll see how that learning curve is for Funk next season. On to our only goalie that cracks my top 10 prospects. We've got Clay Stevenson, the 25-year-old undrafted goalie who was signed out of Dartmouth a few years ago. 6'4", 195, huge goalie. Last season in Hershey, he played for 36 games, had a .922 save percentage in a 24-10-2 record. Great season for him. I think that next season he'll be in much more of a timeshare role with Hunter Shepard, especially considering that their goaltenders at the NHL level in Washington, Charlie Lindgren and Logan Thompson, are both pending unrestricted free agents, and Clay Stevenson will still have another 2 years left on his deal. I think that there's a very real chance that Stevenson makes the NHL roster in 2025-26, and getting more experience in Hershey ahead of that will be the biggest boost to his development. And then if there's an injury to Thompson or Lindgren, I would not be surprised if the Capitals choose to call up Stevenson over Hunter Shepard, get him those games of NHL experience before he comes up for likely his first full season in 2025-26. Another recent draft pick coming in at number 8, defenseman Cole Hudson, taken 43rd overall in the 2024 draft. Last season with the U.S. National Development Team, he played in 19 games and had 12 points. The year before that, played in 32 and had 25. He's a little undersized for a defenseman at 5'10", 165, but Hudson is a very swift skater and a great puck mover, and I think that size is the only reason why he fell out of the first round in the 2024 draft. I think that Hudson will be a bit of a project. He's going to take some time to develop, but once he is fully developed, this guy is going to be a very solid blue liner. Left shot, little undersized, but if you're a great puck mover and a great skater, you're going to be finding a job in the NHL for a while. At number 9, we've got our last defenseman of the video, Ryan Chesley. Right shot, 20-year-old, 6 foot, 195, 37th overall pick in the 2022 draft. He spent the last 2 years playing at the University of Minnesota. Most recently, he played in 39 games for the Golden Gophers, had 2 goals and 6 assists for 8 points. But again, he is very much a defense-first defenseman. You're not going to expect a ton of points from Ryan Chesley. At 6 foot 195, he's about an average size. Right shot, always a little bit more valuable in the NHL for whatever reason. You just can't find right shot defensemen. But yeah, should have another solid year at Minnesota, assuming he goes back. If he doesn't and chooses to go to the AHL, I think that he'll probably be a healthy scratch to start the year, and he'll have to earn his minutes down there. But a longer-term project for the Capitals, who's shown some nice developmental signs throughout his first 2 years in the NCAA. Thought I'd have a little bit of fun with my final prospect of the video. I'm going with Ilia Prus, 75th overall pick in the most recent draft. He's only played 1 season in North America. That was with the Des Moines Buccaneers of the USHL. Played in 61 games for them, had 14 goals and 37 assists for 51 points. He is the younger brother of Capitals forward Alexei Protas, a very similar size, huge dude, 6'5", 198. With that kind of size and his skating ability, that is a guy who is very projectable into an NHL position, but he's also only 17 years old. Protas is a very long-term project for the Capitals, but as long as he gets support from his brother in the NHL, I think his development should be fine. It'll just take probably 3 to 4 years before he cracks an AHL or maybe even NHL roster. Longer-term project for the Capitals, but I think Protas will make the team at one point in the long run. That'll take us to the end of this video. Thought it might be a fun way as we go on through the offseason, shine some light on guys who are important to the Washington organization, but names that you might not know as well simply because they don't play for the Capitals yet. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you want to see more, subscribe down below. And then if you have any thoughts on any of these prospects, guys who you think could make the Capitals in the very near future, guys who you're high on, guys who you aren't as high on, things that you agreed or disagreed with me on, or guys who I left off the list that you think should have been there, I want to hear all those in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.